I'm looking at this brake setup, and the first thing that jumps out is that one of the pads is much thinner than the other. That's never a good sign, and the second I see it, I already know the usual suspect, the slide pins. And sure enough, once I pull the caliper apart, the grease inside looks like glue. Thick, sticky, completely dried out. This right here is a perfect example of why your brakes can grab unevenly, drag on one side, or wear out way too fast. Here's the thing. Changing brakes isn't rocket science. I'm convinced anyone can do it, and honestly, everyone should. It's one of the best ways to save hundreds in shop labor every few years, and you don't need a professional garage to do it right. But even experienced wrenchers keep making the same classic mistakes. Some only cost you money, others can make your car genuinely dangerous. So today I'll show you the 7 most common brake mistakes DIYers make, how to avoid them, and how to service your brakes correctly and safely every time. And definitely stick around to the end. I'll show you a pro trick that makes the hardest part of any brake job, pushing the pistons back, super easy, even without special tools. Mistake number 1, replacing pads but ignoring the brake rotors, discs. I see this all the time. People swap the pads but leave the rotors to save money. The problem? You often keep the exact issue that caused the bad braking in the first place. To be clear, you don't have to replace the rotors every single time. If they're smooth within thickness spec and not warped, you can keep them or have them resurfaced. But many drivers wait too long, and by the time the pads are done, the rotors are already damaged. Clear signs your rotors are due: vibration under braking, the steering wheel shakes or pulses during hard stops. Usually that's a warped rotor. You don't see it, but you feel it. Squealing or grinding. Sure, it can be the pads, but often the rotor is glazed. You'll notice a bluish or shiny surface, a sign of overheating, grooves, rust, or a ridge on the outer edge. If you can feel a lip at the rotor's edge, material is gone. Deep cracks or rust pitting mean replace. If you slap new pads on a damaged rotor, you'll get uneven wear, poor braking, and annoying noises. So, measure rotor thickness, inspect the surface, and if it's rough or ridged, replace or machine it. A bit more work now saves you double trouble later. Mistake number 2, installing wear indicators incorrectly. Those little metal tabs, wear indicators, are simple but very easy to install wrong. They create the squeal that tells you time for new pads. The problem? People put them on backward or skip them entirely. Here's how they work correctly. When driving forward, the rotor should contact the indicator first. Once the pad wears down, the metal rubs the rotor and makes a loud warning noise. If you install them the wrong way, the rotor rides over the pad before it ever touches the indicator, meaning no warning until it's too late. A few tips. Every side of the car should have at least one pad with a wear indicator. Never put both with indicator pads on the same side. Totally pointless. If your pads come without tabs, use the included hardware kit. Those clips matter. They hold the pad properly in the caliper and prevent play. 2 extra minutes here save you from that awful metal-on-metal grinding later. And you definitely don't want to hear that. Mistake number 3, pushing the caliper piston back the wrong way. Retracting the piston is often the most annoying part of a brake job, and it's exactly where most mistakes happen. Most front calipers can be pressed straight back in with a C-clamp or a piston tool, but on some cars, especially Ford, Honda, or Mazda, the piston must be pressed and rotated at the same time. You can spot this type by the cross or twin notches on the piston face. That means the piston rotates as it retracts because it's also moving the parking brake mechanism. Here's the big mistake. If you try to only press this piston straight in, you can destroy the internal threads or seals. People crank down the clamp, hear a crack, and the caliper is toast. If the piston doesn't slide in easily, stop. You need a caliper rewind tool. It costs little and you'll use it forever. Or use a suitable adapter on your ratchet. That tool pays for itself the first time you use it. Trust me, once you've ruined a caliper, you'll never work without it again. Mistakes number 4, letting the caliper hang by the brake hose. This is one of the dumbest but most common mistakes, and totally unnecessary. You unbolt the caliper, set it aside to reach the rotor, but as soon as you move the wheel or the hammer, it drops and hangs from the rubber brake hose. That hose is not designed to hold the caliper's weight. Inside, it can tear or stretch, sometimes without you noticing. If it rips completely, You'll have brake fluid everywhere, air in the system, and possibly a pricey repair all the way up to the master cylinder. Happened to me once on a pickup. One hammer strike, click, hose torn, fluid everywhere. Since then, never again. Always hang the caliper. You can buy cheap S-hooks or just use sturdy wire, a zip tie, or a bit of rope. Attach it to the strut or coil spring so there's no tension on the line. And never rest the caliper on the thin dust shield. It bends easily and will rub on the rotor afterward. Mistake number 5, not lubricating the slide pins. This is one of the biggest brake killers of all. Your caliper slides back and forth on 2 metal pins. If those pins are dry, rusty, or gummed up, the caliper can't float, meaning it presses the pads unevenly. Result, one pad gets thin, the other looks almost new. That's exactly what I saw here. Classic seized slide pins. So, every brake job, pull them out, clean thoroughly, wipe off the old grease completely. If the grease is brown, sticky, or gummy, toss it. Then apply high-temperature brake lubricant, not general-purpose grease, not copper paste. Use silicone or synthetic-based brake slide grease. Coat the pins evenly, reinstall, and make sure the rubber boots seal properly so water can't get in. Important, don't swap the upper and lower pins. Often they're different lengths or one has a vibration-damping rubber sleeve. If you mix them up, the caliper won't move correctly. When they're properly cleaned and greased, the pins should move like butter. That's how you get a brake system that lasts 50,000 kilometers, not just 10,000. Mistake number 6. Not pumping the pedal after reassembly sounds harmless, but it's dangerous. After you retract the pistons, there's now a gap between pad and rotor. If you press the pedal for the first time, it can go straight to the floor because the pads have to take up that gap. Forget to do this and drive off immediately, and the car might not stop when you need it most. I've seen it. Someone finishes a brake job, backs out of the driveway, hits the pedal, and rolls right into another car. So after every brake job, start the engine and pump the pedal several times until it firms up. That pushes the pistons back out and seats the pads against the rotors. Takes 10 seconds and prevents expensive accidents. Right after that, check brake fluid level. If it's low, top it up with the correct spec, DOT3 or DOT4. It's on the cap or in the manual. Mistake number 7. Leaving the parking brake engaged on rear brakes. A lot of people set the handbrake while working on the rear. Makes sense for safety. But if you don't release it, you'll never get the rotor off. On modern cars, the parking brake is inside the rotor hat or integrated into the caliper. If it's engaged, it clamps the inside of the rotor. If you go at it with a hammer or pry bar, you're literally fighting your own car. I see it constantly, folks hammering and cursing, when all they had to do was release the handbrake. Do it right. Chock the front wheels, fully release the parking brake. Then the rotor usually slides off easily. If it still sticks, it's probably rusted on. And I've got a separate video showing how to free it safely without damaging the hub or studs. Pro tip, retract the piston easily, without a tool. Here's the promised trick. It saves you time every single job. Before you unbolt the caliper, take a flathead screwdriver and slip it through the opening in the caliper. Gently lever against the old pad edge and that pushes the piston back a bit. Instantly creates space for the new pads. If you're replacing the rotors anyway, it doesn't matter if they get a few scratches. Do this before disassembly, and everything fits perfectly during reassembly. Can't reach? Remove the lower caliper bolt, swing the caliper up, and lever from there with a screwdriver or small pry bar. Always brace it, never let it hang by the hose. One small move. Big results. The toughest step becomes a 1-minute task. Those were the 7 most common brake job mistakes, plus one pro trick that makes everything easier. If you're new to DIY wrenching, a brake job is the perfect starting point. You'll get to know your car better, save a lot of money, and build the confidence to tackle bigger repairs later. Remember, take your time, double-check everything, and never rush brakes. Your brake system is what keeps you alive when it counts. If this video helped, drop a thumbs up. Comment below with the brake mistakes you've seen, and check out my video on the most common oil change mistakes. It'll save you just as much money and hassle. Stay safe, keep your tools clean, and as always,